For this creative visual reflection, I choose My Grandmother's Hands by Menakem. The main idea I took from the book is that racial trauma is not only an idea, belief, or historical topic. It lives in the body, in the nervous system, muscles, breath, fear response, inherited patterns, and relationships. The image of hands is important because Menakem begins the book with his grandmother's hands. Her hands carry pain, labor, survival, and love. For me, hands became a symbol of how history can live in the body and how healing also requires the body. My reflection explores trauma, decolonization, racialized trauma, embodiment, oppression, resilience, social justice, and systemic harm. I wanted to I wanted the project to hold both truth and hope. Truth about harm and hope that healing is possible through awareness, responsibility, relationship, and care. The body in the center represents Menakem's core message. Trauma does not live only in thoughts or memories, it also lives in the nervous system and in the body learned response to safety and danger. The roots and surrounding phases show that trauma can be personal, historical, familial, and collective. The connections disconnect to McKenna's idea that racialized trauma is carried not only by individuals but also through families, communities, institutions, and culture. I also include a content note because the book asks readers to notice their body while engaging with painful material. I want to invite you to pause, breathe, and notice what happened inside you as you move through the reflection. Manichaean begins with the memory of his grandmother's hands, which were shaped by picking cotton beginning when she was a child. Her hands carry labor, injury, endurance, tenderness, and survival. The hands in the visual represent more than physical hands. They represent memory, ancestry, pain, and resilience. This helped me understand that trauma is not always visible as a clear story. Sometimes it appears in posture, touch, silence, tension, or the way the body has learned to survive. As a counseling student, this reminds me to listen not only to what clients say, but also to what their bodies may be communicating. The broken body and waves represent overwhelm. One of Menakem's most important points is that trauma is not simply the event itself. Trauma is the body's protective response to something experienced as too much, too fast, or too soon. This changed the way I think about trauma. Instead of asking only what happened or what is wrong with this person, a more trauma informed question is what did the body have to do in order to survive? That question feels more compassionate. It helps me see fight, flight, freeze, shut down, avoidance, numbness, and hypervigilance as a survival adaptation rather than weakness or pathology. The glowing nervous system represents the body's alarm system. Menakem explains that the body often reacts before the thinking brain can fully understand what is happening. A person may know logically that they are safe, but their body may still respond as if danger is present. The body may consist and may constrict, freeze, fight, flee, or shut down when something reminds it of old pain or threats. This connects with polyvagal informed trauma work because safety is first experienced through the nervous system. Healing cannot happen only through talking or insight. The body also needs grounding, settling, pacing, rhythm, breath, and enough safety to slowly process trauma. The phases and map represent trauma moving through history, families, community, and systems. Menakem expands trauma beyond their individuals by showing how racism, opposition, and white body supremacy shape bodies across generations. This does not mean every person experiences trauma in the same way. It means that systems and histories affect nervous systems. Bodies learn from threat, survival, culture, and repeated experience of harm. For counseling, this matters because a client's symptoms can not always be understood only as individual problems. They may also be connected to racism, colonization, migration, policing, poverty, discrimination, or inherited family survival patterns. The people connected by invisible lines represent systems that shapes bodies and relationships even when those systems are not always visible. Menakem uses the term white body supremacy to show that racism is not only a conscious belief system, it is also held in bodies, reflexes, institutions, social norms, and everyday interaction. This was a challenging but important concept for me. It asks readers to move beyond guilt or blame and towards embodying responsibility. The question becomes, what has my body learned from culture, family, history, fear, silence, privilege, or systems of power? As a future counselor, this connects to cultural humility. I need to examine not only what I think, but also how my body responds to different discomfort, conflict, and power. The figure surrounded by harsh landscape represents the weight of systemic harm. Menakem helped me understand that oppression is not abstract. It lands on the body through chronic stress, fear, grief, anger, exhaustion, hypervigilance, constriction, and disconnection. People do not only think about oppression, they live inside its effects. This is important for trauma informed care because if counseling ignores racism, colonization, oppression, and institutional harm, we may accidentally treat survival responses as individual pathology instead of responses to real conditions. For me, social justice is counseling means seeing both the person and the systems affecting the person. The mirror and hand on the chest represent my own process while reading. I notice sadness, discomfort, tension, curiosity, and sometimes resistance. I also noticed that part of me wanted to understand quickly or explain everything intellectually, but Menakem books invite me to slow down and notice what was happening in my body. This became one of the most meaningful parts as the assignment for me. Learning about trauma and oppression is not only intellectual work, it also asks me to notice defensiveness, grief, humility, and responsibility. As a future counselor, I want to practice this awareness because my body also enters the counseling room. The two paths represent Menakem's distinction between clean pain and dirty pain. Clean pain is painful, but it can lead to truth, accountability, growth, healing, and repair. Dirty pain, instead, is the pain that comes from avoidance, denial, blame, silence, or passing harm forward. This concept helped me think about social justice in a more embodied way. Healing is not always comfortable, and accountability is not always easy, but avoiding clean pain can create more suffering. In counseling, this reminds me that healing often requires staying present with discomfort in a paced and compassionate way. Clean pain asks us to face what is true without collapsing into shame, defensiveness, or avoidance. The roots and broken chains represent patterns that have been normalized by systems of harm. For me, the colonization trauma work means expanding the focus beyond the individual. It means asking deeper questions about history, culture, community, land, power, and inherent survival. Menakem's book shows that trauma is not always created by one personal event. It can also be shaped by colonization, racism, policing, displacement, silence, and unequal power. For counseling, this means social justice is not separate from trauma work. Healing must honor cultural wisdom, body wisdom, collective memory, community resilience, and the client's lived context. The circle of people and candles represent connection, rhythm, presence, and co-regulation. Menachem's reminds readers that healing is not only private, because trauma can be collective. Healing also needs to be relational and communal. He discusses body centered practice such as humming, rhythm, singing, rocking, grounding, breathing, and other forms of embodying settling. This connects with polyvagal informed work because safety is not created only inside one person. Safety can be created between bodies through presence, compassion, voice, rhythm, repair, and community. This image represents hope. Healing can move from one body to many bodies. The counseling room represents the idea that therapy is never only a conversation between minds. The client's story enters through words, but also through breath, posture, silence, mus- muscle tension, culture, identity, and survival responses. For me, the counseling implication is clear. I need to listen to the body and to the context around the client. I cannot separate symptoms from history, culture, community, and power. I also need to notice my own embodied reactions so I can create enough safety for regulation, meaning making, and repair. Trauma informed counseling becomes more complete when it is also body informed, culturally responsive, and socially aware. The image of repair represents one of my final takeaways. Healing is repair, not perfection. Menakem does not present healing as quick or simple. He presents it as a process of creating more room in the nervous system, facing clean pain, and choosing not to pass trauma forward. I am leaving the book with the idea that trauma can be inherited, but resilience can also be inherited and practiced. Healing begins in the body, but it does not end there. It moves outward into relationships, families, communities, counseling work, and social justice. Trauma lives not only inside individuals, but also inside bodies, families, history, and systems. Healing requires both personal regulation and social responsibility. My grandmother's hands expanded my understanding of trauma by showing that trauma is biological, historical, cultural, relational, and systemic. The book challenged me to think beyond individual healing and to consider how bodies carry stories of survival, oppression, and resilience. As a counseling student, this matters because trauma informed care must also be body informed, culturally responsive, and socially aware. Healing begins when we slow down, listen to the body, face clean pain, and practice and participate in mending, not only for ourselves but also for the communities we are part of. This visual reflection helped me integrate Menakem's ideas through images, personal reflection, and counseling application.